I was born into a dog family. So
Okay.
my parents competed with dogs in conformation, which is the beauty stuff. And they actually did do obedience trials with Lhasa Apsos, which is something of an accomplishment. And, not too many people were doing that. There were no other sports back then. So I've been in dogs I've been competing for more than 40 years.
Wow.
And back then there was no agility, there was tracking, there was obedience, there was conformation, and that was kind of it. So it was just a different time. I don't think I called myself a dog trainer. So when I was young, so I was competing when I was a kid, right? 12, 13 years of age. So I wouldn't have said I was a dog trainer because I was a kid. I would have
Okay.
said that my hobby is training and competing with dogs. And then I had no intention of being a dog trainer. I had another career and did other things. And then, but I've always done dog sports as a hobby. So
Okay.
that was just about something I wanted to do. And then I had a kid, and he was high maintenance, and there was no way I was going to be able to put him in daycare and go back to my old job. So it just became pretty obvious that that wasn't going to work.
Yeah.
And so I became a stay at home parent, but I'm not cut out for that. And so I figured out that I could go to a dog club where I wanted to be, train people's dogs for, I think I was charging $30 an hour, which is pretty darn low, and basically make enough money to pay the babysitter so I could get out of the house a couple days a week. And that meant a lot to me. And then for various reasons, things happened. So I started teaching. My husband was home. And this would have been right around September 11th, because that was my husband lost his job as a result of that. And so he was home. And so I was working more and working a little more and a little more and a little more and a little more. And I just never went back to my old job. And then one day I realized I was actually a dog trainer, but it took a long time before I started calling myself a dog trainer. I thought of myself as a stay at home mom who trains dogs on the side.
On the side.
And
I
then
see
my
what you're saying.
husband never went back to work. So apparently he became a stay at home dad and I became a dog trainer. Well, when I started, boy, I mean, that's so long ago. Um, Back then, I would have looked up to whoever was successful because I was in a different place then and I wanted to be successful. So if you were successful in the ring, I would have admired that. And there were certainly people that I can think of who fit that profile. Um, and then when I came back to training, I remember watching Terry Arnold, who was an AKC obedience competitor, and I attended her seminar. And this would have been, oh my goodness, I was probably 26 or 27. I'm 55 now. So a ways back. And I went to her seminar, and she talked about bright and happy dogs. And her dogs healed in a way I had never seen. I mean, well, they look like my dogs look now. But back then, that was like, I'd just never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
And I was pretty well riveted for the 3 days of that seminar. And with hindsight, I got all the wrong stuff from the seminar, but that's okay. Like I went back several years later and was reading my notes, and I realized that I missed all the stuff that I should have got. Like she just kept talking about engagement and getting the dog to be happy, but then, yeah. I wanted to know the techniques. How do you teach sit? How do you teach down? And it's so interesting to go back and read because you pick up what you are ready to hear at a given time. And at that time in my development, I was about skills, the complexity of teaching skills to get the work, and was just completely not ready to hear that the skills are the easy part. The engagement, the life, the beauty of the work has nothing to do with the skills. And I just thought that was so interesting to go back and read my notes. It's an interesting thing for anyone to do, to go back if they went to a seminar and they took notes and to compare what they remember as being important with what they wrote down. And so then as time has gone by, I've worked with, more and more trainers that I picked up various things from at different times. Um, so now I largely look up to people who work at my online school.
I
There's a
see.
reason they're there, and that's because I admire what they do or some aspects of what they do. And so I want them to work at the school because I want them to teach the things they know and do so other people can learn them. I don't think there was really a time when I thought I was good. I know there was a time when I thought I knew everything, but that's actually a different question, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I think that's a pretty normal, and I actually remember a conversation around that, and that would have been maybe 20 years ago. I thought I had a pretty good handle on stuff. And then there's nothing like working with more dogs. And because of how I teach and what I do, I tended to get the extremes. I tended to have clients who either had very low drive dogs that were difficult to motivate or very high drive dogs that they didn't know how to control. I didn't get very much in the middle. And the more you work with difficult dogs and novice handlers, who often there's really nothing wrong with the dog, it's a people problem, the more you realize you better learn more or you're not going to be successful. And I'm kind of a believer that necessity is the mother of invention. I really believe that expression. And that when you have no choice because you're not solving a problem within the parameters that you have set for yourself,
Yeah.
that you become clever and creative. There's nothing like me being in a seminar, having an exceptionally difficult problem presented to me, and having to come up with a solution within the next 5 to 10 seconds to motivate my brain to figure stuff out.
I see.
So I don't know that I ever thought I was good. I mean, I'm pretty open about the fact that I'm not really a competitor, I'm a trainer, and those are not the same.
Yeah.
I compete because I train. I don't train to compete.
I see.
And that's why I'm in no hurry to get in the ring because I don't particularly want to be there. I'm there because if you don't compete, you don't test your training. And if you don't test your training, you don't even know what's wrong with it. You go to a dog show and what you thought was glorious is not glorious. And there is very little like the force of the pressure of knowing that you have to get your dog to do the thing in a difficult environment without reinforcement, without punishers. That is what makes you up your game. And if you don't do it, you can tell me how you could do it till the cows come home, but you need to do it. So when people say, "Well, are you going to be successful at this or that?" I don't know. And even if I am, it doesn't tell you anything about what's going to happen with the next dog or the one after that. Every dog you take up, every sport you take up, you don't know what you have until you test it. And that's why we have dog sports, is to test what we think we have and then to take the feedback of our success or failure, which doesn't bother me particularly, and do better and strive for more. But I would have no problem never going in I would be perfectly happy to take my dogs and let other people compete with them. I wouldn't care, except that my dogs won't work well for other people, not the way they'll work for me. But otherwise, I'd be like, help yourself. I don't have any desire to be there. And then I'll take that feedback, but it doesn't really work like that. I
Do
don't
that
know.
modesty.
I don't know why. Some people love to garden and they'll sit there for hours. And I look at that and I wish I loved to garden because my garden would look better, but it's not in me. There's no driver there.
Yeah.
And for me, it's actually not, I love dogs on different levels. First of all, I'm really intrigued by animals as a concept. Humans are animals. We may not love that, but the real is that we actually are. And I'm fascinated by the fact that the earth is populated by all these species and that we have chosen to separate ourselves from all of the others with no reason whatsoever. We just happened to be lucky and hit the jackpot and ended up on the top of the old pile. But it's really interesting to me to look at all of the animals and to contemplate the similarities and differences. You will learn an incredible amount about human beings by interacting and training animals if you choose to learn. I mean, you can choose not to learn. You will learn a lot about our society and the way we structure our society around our beliefs. And you can learn that by watching with animals. And you can see how over and over again, We have these similarities. That fascinates me about the thing called animals. Dogs, in particular, fascinate me because they live in our homes. And if you actually stop and think about that, that's a thing. That we have another species that actually lives in our homes and enriches our lives dramatically. So much so that around the world, living with dogs is not an unusual thing whatsoever. Even people who have them in the yard, the fact that we can connect with them and take something from our relationships, maybe you don't feel lonely when you have a dog. That's actually kind of amazing. I'm
Yeah.
fascinated by dog training because I enjoy the process of breaking. It's just constant puzzles. Everything you do is constantly a puzzle. How is this working for you? How is your dog responding? And if you care how the dog feels about it, which I do, then where did you go wrong if you don't like what the dog is showing you? Or how might you fix it? To me, that's just this endless puzzle. You'll never run out of things to work on. You'll never run out of fodder. Even if you get exceptionally good at a given dog sport and spend a lot of time there, each dog brings something sort of different. Now, my attention span's pretty short, so I don't tend to stay with a given dog sport for a long time. I do it and then I'm like, okay. It's not that I couldn't learn more in those sports. I certainly could, but I just sort of lose some of my drive for it, my
Right.
enthusiasm.